Hello, everyone, and welcome into the chat. This is Occult Perspectives, doing another live stream covering the topic of the four worlds of Kabbalah. I did a live stream, what was it, like a week ago or something? And it was pretty fun. We had a good turnout, even during the live stream, and then it got a good number of views. So I want to thank each and every one of you, for supporting and for helping with the watch hours and stuff on the channel, because I've been trying to increase that. Just because I haven't been pumping out as much content. I have to pump out content pretty frequently if I want to keep the watch hours up. Welcome in to Occult Perspectives. How are you? I hope your day is amazing so far. I think I'm just going to jump right into things. Get started with some of the notes I have here. The music you're hearing, by the way, is from Morrowind. If you've ever played that game. This video is called Balmora by Starlight. It's really good music to fall asleep to, actually. And the guy who composes the music for that game, he writes some of the best music, in my opinion. So I'm going to start out reading a section from A Garden of Pomegranates, Scrying on the Tree of Life by Israel Regardi. Sorry, I'm pretty stuffy too with all the temperature changes that have been taking place. I live in Ohio, and the temperature is always fluctuating up and down, which causes, people to get sinus issues and stuff throughout the year. I like the warm weather, but I'm kind of almost just ready for it to consistently, stay colder. All right, I am starting at the very bottom of page 122 in A Garden of Pomegranates. This is the root foundation upon which all further study must be based. They're talking about previous material in the book. Let me skip this little section. The Sephirothic tree itself may be placed in each of what are called the four worlds in the Kabbalistic scheme of evolution. The Sephirothic scheme was originally concerned with the mysteries of evolution. I mean, that's really what magic and all of this is about. It's about soul evolution and the evolution of the collective too, which they're kind of, one and the same. You find out at the end of the day, it's all one. The Kabbalists conceived of the evolution of the cosmos in a complex manner, by a kind of flowing forth or emanation from Ein. I've always pronounced it Ein. I don't know if it's Ain. A-I-N, the outermost veil of the Empyrean. It was held that there were produced in succession four worlds or planes of consciousness. So it all emanates from Ein. So Ein is that original, space of what's kind of mistakenly called nothing or no thing or the void, but it's really just all potentiality yet unmanifested. Thank you for tuning in to the live stream. I see we have one thumbs up, so thank you for that. Make sure we're clicking the thumbs up as we get in here. If you would be so kind as to do that for me. The tree, therefore, is divided into four different regions of consciousness, of four cosmic planes in which the creative flow or pulsating stream of life proceeds. The first of these four creative planes is Olam Atziluth, the world of emanations or the archetypal world. And I'm going to go ahead and get my chart back out. Not that you guys would probably need it, but it is a useful reference. So the first world, Atzuluth, or however you pronounce that. And then you have Bria. So the archetypal world's the first one. The second is Olam Bria, the creative world. The third is Olam Yetzira, the formative world. All the above finding expression and dynamic concretion in Olam Messiah. So really the last world is where all the ideas and all the concepts of these three worlds come into, a concrete manifestation. This is the world of action, or the material world, which the Zohar considers to be the abiding truth of the harmonious cooperation of all the Sephiroth. Making the universe in all its orderliness and symmetry a true and exact manifestation of the thought divine of the archetypal world. Interesting. Let me read that little section again and go ahead and close the door too. The Zohar considers to be the abiding truth of the harmonious cooperation of all the Sephiroth. This world of action, the final world, Asaya, considers to be the true abiding truth of the harmonious cooperation of all the Sephiroth. So all the Sephiroth eventually having their harmony here in Malkuth. Making the universe in all its orderliness and symmetry a true and exact manifestation of the thought divine of the archetypal world. So literally the archetypal world is thinking Asaya, or the final world, into manifestation. The Zoharic authority for this philosophic conception is to be found in Zohar. All that which exists upon the earth has its spiritual counterpart on high, and there exists nothing in this world which is not attached to something above and is not found independent upon it. All that which is contained in the lower world is also found in prototype. The lower and the upper reciprocally act upon each other. And I'm not exactly sure how that works in conjunction with, because we're seeing the relationship between these, the above and the below on the Sephirothic tree. I wonder, from an equational perspective, how does the tree of death play into that? How does the Qliphothic tree, is there a connection from the very bottom, which is the throne of Satan and Moloch and Thamiel, the crown of Lucifer or whatever? There's obviously a connection between all of it. So the correspondence is, as above, so below, works through both trees. And ultimately, it's one tree at the end of the day. Melanin98, what's up? How are you? Glad to have you in here. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in the comments. So this as above, so below division is contemplated in two distinct manners. And there's a footnote here. Let me see if it's even worth looking into. A third method of dividing up the four worlds of the Kabbalah is as follows. The world of Atzuluth, containing the three supernals of Kether, Hokmah, and Bina. Okay, it's just one of the ways of dividing the different worlds into which Sephiroth that they correspond with. There's different versions of it. So for some, like the first world of Atzuluth would be, Kether, Hokmah, and Bina. But it just depends on the system that you're using. I don't know that any one is particularly better than the other. This one says that This particular division that it's speaking of here is not nearly as satisfying as the other two listed by Regardi. So that was footnotes, not by Regardi himself, obviously, from Chick Cicero and Sandra Tabitha Cicero. Those are names you come across all the time, you know, in the esoteric studies. So in the first method, now I'm reading back from the actual chapter. Kether, the sphere of the primum mobile, occupies the first plane alone. So really the world of, in this system, Atziluth would only be Kether, just the top sphere, rather than all three. It is the archetype and creator of all the other Sephiroth. Hokmah and Bina are considered as the creative worlds of Bria, the next world down, the region of ideation and cosmic energization, from which evolves the world of formation, consisting of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th Sephiroth. The world of formation constitutes the astral plane, comprising various degrees of subtle and electric matter and energy. So that's the world of formation that they're talking about, and that's Yetzirah. So this is going to be more like your astral plane kind of deal. And I think we were talking in the last video about how the archangels typically operate from this level, Bria. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the thumbs up, and thank you for tuning in. Be sure to comment if you have any questions. You want to get involved in the chat, because really what I'm doing is kind of boring. I'm just reading about the 4 Kabbalistic trees out of some books. So, hopefully we can learn something from that. I learned something, when I pick out books and read from them. But honestly, what makes these chats really cool is when you guys get involved in the discussion. So definitely looking forward to that and seeing who tunes into the video this time. The whole is synthesized in the physical world, Malkuth. We were talking about that earlier. The 10th Sephiroth, which is in this mode of consideration, Olam Asaya, or the 4th world. The world of form and substance. Here's the version that they have. So Atziluth is Kether, Bria'd be these two. And then you've got, this world Yetzirah and Asaya. Now it says that this is like the region of reality where the archangels operate, but really there's, we know that on the Tree of Life there's an archangel corresponding with each Sephiroth. It's so interesting. Every time I look at the Tree of Life, especially through like the camera here, I always see like different geometric forms in it. There's so much going on with the Tree of Life geometrically. Seeing it from different perspectives and different angles. The Zohar takes the name the YHVH, which is the Tetragrammaton, which, if you know about the lesser ritual of the pentagram, that's one of the 4 names that you vibrate. Typically in the East, in my version, well, I vibrate that sacred god name in the West. In the West now, I've changed it up a little bit in my version. But anyway, that's just a side note. The Zohar, moreover, takes the name YHVH, Tetragrammaton, and attributes each letter of this word to some one of the 4 worlds, which is on this chart right here, actually. So, and we talked about that in the last live stream too. So some of this is going to be it's going to be basically a repeat of what you heard in the last video if you tuned into that one. Yod, which is archetypal masculine. He, which is archetypal feminine. Va, or Vow, which is physical masculinity. And then you've got the final He, which is physical feminine, which makes sense, with Malkuth and Asaya. In the second method, the Zohar places a whole tree of 10 Sephiroth in each of the 4 worlds. We were talking about that too. So there's 4 trees. The archetypal world is the highest, being absolutely ideal. It is the plane of the divine thought, the causal plane of cosmic ideation, or the Mahat of Blavatsky theosophy. Cool. And I'm assuming, it shows the world of Absoluth being Kether, but you would think that would also include that. I mean, if it's the highest world, that's also has to include the supernal triad, the upper veil, the Ein Sof or the Ein Sof, and the Ein. The 10 archetypal Sephiroth project themselves into the world of Bria, so the second world down, a plane less spiritual and less abstract. Here, the creative forces of the gods seize upon the archetypal ideas of things. So the creative forces of God seize upon those archetypal ideas, expanding and vivifying and developing the tree on that particular plane. Very interesting, so that it shows them as architects or builders of the tree on that particular plane. This is the mental plane proper, comparable in cosmical constitution to the conception of the Ruach, or the lower manas of theosophy and man. The lowest Sephiroth in Atziluth thus becomes the Kether in Bria. So once you get to the bottom of a tree, that's where the next layer of reality starts. In other words, here's a whole tree for this level. Now the bottom Sephiroth is going to be the beginning of the next tree. So it's all connected. You have 40 Sephiroth here, if you combine all of those together. Hey bro, what's up? How are you? Anything new in your world? In the formative world, which is the plane of the astral forces, or the Yetzirah, the third one down, the ideas are projected still further, being clothed here in a design or model form of electric and magnetic matter. Interesting. So this is almost sounding like more like quantum type stuff-ish on this in this third world. The astral substance is an omnipresent and all-permeating fluid of extremely subtle matter, of substance in a highly tenuous state and in the process of further evolution. So it's an all-permeating fluid. And the astral plane represents with Yesod, which is like the sexual energy too. So it's almost like you have an as above, so below correspondence there. The astral plane itself, or the astral fluid, is like, it's like the powerhouse of your energy. That's where, and so it is for the physical world. That's kind of where the energy, this magical fluid, extremely subtle matter of substance in a highly tenuous state exists. And in the process of further evolution, it produces and acts as the substratum to the material world, which is a copy of the astral and more dense and gross material. So literally, the material world, or the fourth world, is a copy of the astral plane, Yesod, the next one up, in a more dense and gross material. So just denser version of this. Adam, what's up? Hey from Rochester. Awesome. Glad to have you on here. It's really cool to get people from like different areas and stuff on here. Right now I'm practicing duality. Very good. Very good. Yep, it's all about it's all about reconciling these pillars right here. Pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. How can we synthesize them? How can we bring them together and kind of merge them in a way? It's almost like the serpentine path, pulling the influences of each sphere, or I'm sorry, each pillar, and of course all the spheres into our own being. Learning how to alchemize that and balance it, figuring out what our polarity is, whether we, our natural polarity is more like veering more towards the positive or veering more towards the negative. No one's like completely positive or negative. That, like, you wouldn't be a physical being if that were the deal. So here we are in the world of duality, so you got to kind of like navigate your way through the waters, so to speak. So in this manner, should a large number of triads be required for a comparative purpose, such as may be required for the attributing of the triadic categories of the Hegelian philosophy? I have no idea what the hell he's talking about there. I'm going to look at the footnote. It says, see endnote 22, chapter 2. Let's not worry about that then. So, a large number of triads be required for comparative purpose, such as may be required for the attributing of the triadic categories of the Hegelian philosophy to the tree of life. We obtain by this means a system of 12 triads, with a pendant of a 13th Sephirah and Asaya. Interesting. So, in other words, it can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. The tarot cards likewise have been attributed to these 4 worlds. The set of cards consists of 22 trumps attributed to the Hebrew alphabet. Interesting with like President Trump and all that. I don't really mean to bring politics up, but if you ever thought about like the symbolism of that name, like Trump, interesting. I don't know why I'm talking about the 22 trumps of the tarot made me think of that just now. Always got to have your trump card, whatever that is for you, I've got a few tucked away in my pocket. The set of cards consists of 22 trumps attributed to the Hebrew alphabet. We all know that, of course, the 22 paths, etc. And that's exactly what the footnote was saying too. 4 suits of 14 cards each, entitled the Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles. I'm assuming the wands would be, corresponding to the first world of Atziluth, because that's, the element of fire. The first 10 of each suit, as we have already seen, were attributed to the Sephiroth. The remaining 4 in each suit are the court cards, king, queen, prince, or knight, and princess or page, and are attributed to the letters of the Tetragrammaton and to the 4 creative worlds. I didn't think I was really going to read on. I don't think I'm going to read much more from this book. I'm going to switch on over to Manly P. Hall here really soon. In the painting of modern sets, a number of mistakes have inadvertently crept in. The king has been depicted as sitting passively on a throne, and the prince or knight astride a horse in full gallop, actively brandishing his weapon. Referring to the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. Okay, so he's just going to say that that's a mistake. Alrighty then, Mr. Israel Regardi. I do have a lot of respect for Israel Regardi, though. In reality, the symbol should be reversed. For the king, the demiurgus. Interesting, they're referring to the king of the Terra as the demiurgus. Because the demiurge has so many different like meanings depending on what perspective you're viewing it from. They should be reversed for the king. The demiurgus, or Macroprospis in Kether, who represents Olam Atziluth, is creative and positive and transmits the stream of life to the queen, who is the mother, Olam Bria. So the second world down would be the queen, a more feminine world of Bria. Olam Bria, abiding patiently and passively at the work of creation goes on, as the work of creation goes on within her. The prince or knight, the Microprospis situate in Tiphareth, representing Olam Yetzirah, is similar in function to the king, but subsisting on a much lower plane, he receiving the ideas and force of the father from the mother, which impressions he in turn, that's a weird way of wording, which impressions he in turn imparts to the princess or page, that's almost like a typo, it looks like, who is the virgin in Asaya. So, king, queen, prince, princess is what it seems like. I'll go ahead and like keep reading from this page. Sky, hello, how are you? Are you going to vote? I don't think I am. Not sure if we can trust these actors. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna vote because I'm not really registered. I've moved a couple different times in the past couple years, so I haven't really been in the exact same spot. Hold on just a minute, guys. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that, everyone. But yes, to get back to your comment with the voting and everything. Yeah, I'm not really registered to vote. I know who I would vote for if I had to vote. It's kind of like you have to pick the lesser of the two evils. I don't think either side's right. I think there's certain things I agree with on each side, and then there's certain things I disagree with on each side. And it's really just two wings of the same bird. You know, if you understand duality like to any degree, you can see how people are just so polarized by politics and stuff. And that's why I don't really talk about politics or my political views on here, because we're studying something a little bit deeper. We're studying spiritual principles and the underlying causal factors of reality, and things like that. So it's I try not to get too caught up in all the political stuff. But you have to understand how these different politics and stuff, they're like, think of it as like the different pillars on the tree. They need to play their part. They need to play the role. They need to play in the grand, you could call it the grand cosmic play if you want to. Even though they're kind of all fools, they do have their energetic part to play in the grand scheme of things. So there is a reason for why they're doing what they're doing. So there is an evolutionary role to be experienced or to be played. So it's not that it's like evil or anything, but I just think it's silly to get too caught up on all that stuff. So Demiurge, yeah, got the little gray alien there. Yeah, some people think the Demiurge, like, isn't it like Yaldabaoth, the false god, is sometimes considered the Demiurge? The Demiurge is essentially, from my understanding, it's a being that's not ultimate source. It's not really God, but it's more an architect or a quote unquote lowercase God. Like, here's ultimate source, and then you got the Demiurge, which is this higher being, but not really on the same grand scale as the ultimate source. And then you've got us kind of down here, and the Demiurge controls certain aspects of things. The Demiurge, once again, just like these politicians, like, it has its role to play in the grand evolutionary scheme of things. So it's not that it's good or bad. Sky, you are doing well. That's great to hear. I'm doing well too. I'm doing a lot better than I have been in a while. So I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you for asking. Thank you. All right. I don't know that I really need to read anything else from The Garden of Pomegranates. This is what I was reading from, in case you guys were wondering, by Israel Regardie. Great book. I highly recommend it. Make sure we're getting the thumbs up in here too, if we can. That would be awesome. I would highly appreciate that. The names of the suits too are descriptive to a very large extent of the nature of the worlds. The wand is the magical symbol of the creative will, which evolves the original archetypal ideas in absolute. So yeah, it's really just the elemental tools that correspond with each one. So cups, is going to be water. Swords or daggers is going to be air, and then pentacles is earth. The cup obviously is a feminine symbol, passive and receptive. It contains or holds things, eager to receive the male influence from on high, quote unquote on high. And it's interesting because really the whole nature of the universe in its prime, like in its most raw sense, is like really feminine, like, because it all starts out in the primal chaos, the dark matter energy, component of existence. So from the primal feminine, they say from like Kether and Binah, or Binah, is actually produced Hokmah. I think that's a very interesting perspective on the tree of life, rather than Kether like emanating both Hokmah and Binah. So that's kind of an interesting idea or concept that I have heard about reading Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. The sword relates to the formative plane, since the sword cuts, forms, and hews. So anytime you're working with like that kind of energy, it's going to be on the Yetzirah, is what it corresponds to, that plane. The sword relates to the formative plane. Okay, the pentacles being formed of wax, a symbol of earth, passive and inert, symbolize the world of action and matter, wherein the forces of the more transcendent planes have their field of manifestation. Only one word of caution here is required. It must not be supposed that these worlds are quote-unquote above one another in space or time. Such is not the Zoharic idea. Yeah, that's just how we like put it on a piece of paper so that we can like at least try to contemplate it, but it's not literally one world on like physically on top of the others. And it's the same with the Sephiroth. Like the worlds aren't literally like set up that way. It's just it's like a diagram representation of these archetypal forces. So it's important to keep that into consideration. Reality is all about densities and vibrating and moving through reality. So it's not so much that this reality's here, this reality's here, and this reality's here. They're all simultaneously flowing together, and I think that's something that's really important to understand. This is one of the main drawbacks of diagram representations. They are realms of consciousness, each having an appropriate vehicle of matter, some more subtle, others more dense. Blavatsky states that they are in coadjunction, but not in consubstantiality. Wow, I'd really have to look up what those words mean. Those are some tough words. The implication of this rather formidable phrase is that their substance is not of the same degree of density, although spatially they may occupy the same position. That's what's so interesting. That's so interesting, I think, that like all worlds and times and dimensions and space are like, there could literally be 100 different densities or like degrees of manifestation, like within this space, this room. There could be like other beings and stuff just like operating on a higher plane, but they're occupying the same quote unquote space. So it's like very, very interesting to see it from that perspective. Few remarks are necessary with regard to methods of viewing the tree and its shape in general. Here we go. There's a little note on the Freemasons down here. So I'll keep reading. There's 3 triads of Sephiroth, culminating in the pendant of a 10th Sephiroth, which was called Malkuth. So 3 triads. 1, 3. Well, 4 here if you include Doth and then Malkuth. So H.P. Lovecraft monsters are real? Yeah, I guess so. I think everything can be real, depending on, you know, which degree of existence you're operating in. The idea came from somewhere, right? It came from the mind. It came from the world of archetypes and worked its way down within H.P. Lovecraft's own consciousness until he wrote a book about it in the physical world, right? So that's how even when we create something, that's how it comes down into formation. It has to work its way from those top spheres. There's another way of looking at the tree. The Sephiroth arrange themselves in columns, for there are 3 on the right hand, 3 on the left, and 4 in the middle. I don't really understand what he's talking about there. Oh, yeah, okay. So he's saying, now he's just including Doth, I see. Hukmah has said and Nutzak are those on the right hand, and these comprise what is called the Pillar of Mercy, of course. Obviously comparable to the column of Yakin or Jachin of the Freemasons. So, and the same with Boaz. This is Boaz of Freemasonry. Okay, yeah, I'm going to move on to The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly P. Hall, and there is a section in here, well, a chapter in here, I should say, that looks very interesting to get into. There's no way we're going to be able to get through all of it because it's a really long, well, it's not a really long chapter, but it's a super dense chapter. The information in here is a lot to take in. So it's chapter 26 in The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Fundamentals of Kabbalistic Cosmogony is the name of the chapter. Pretty sure you can get this whole book on sacredtexts.com. So starting from the beginning of the chapter, turn the music down a little bit here. The Kabbalists conceive of the supreme deity as an incomprehensible principle to be discovered only through the process of eliminating in order all its cognizable attributes. That's an interesting way of looking at it. So it's obvious we can only perceive so much from this realm. No matter how spiritually gifted you are, or no matter how high your powers of perception are, it's really impossible to know in its true state, what the immutable, form of, for lack of a better term, God is. What is the nature of this thing, which we all are, at the end of the day. And you come across understanding this principle by eliminating in order all its cognizable attributes. So it's like you're basically condensing reality down to the point, which is what I do at the grocery store. That's really all it is. That's really what most of our lives, not most of our lives, but a lot of our lives in a physical sense consists of breaking down items or compartmentalizing items. Like you have to organize your house. When you go to the grocery store, all of the items have to be put on the shelf. The items move their way to the homes, and then somebody has to refill the shelf. So a lot of life is literally just kind of what should be almost like automatically, done at this point. Like we kind of should have figured out how to have that strong foundation of just having those things kind of automatically, worked. Basically machines that could do it for us. Machines that aren't too smart, that could probably help us along with that process a lot more. So we're not having to do so much of the physical labor. And then we as humans can work on like higher aspirations of the soul, like, studying this type of stuff. But it's important to always stay physically active and stuff too, because working is good for the soul, like to some degree. I just think we're all overworked in this country, and we're stuck doing work that we're, not a lot of the times in resonance with. Like it just doesn't feed our soul. We know that it's kind of necessary to keep the matrix moving, but at the same time, you only really want to feed the horde for so long. So that which remains, so after, eliminating all of these things, when every knowable thing has been removed, is Ein Sof, the eternal state of being. So Ein Sof is the eternal state of being, and then the Ein is like the eternal state of no being. It hasn't yet manifested yet. It's still all together in one comprehensive unit. Whereas with the Ein Sof, you're starting to see it's when every knowable thing has been removed. I've always described the Ein Sof a little bit differently than the Ein. And I have a video where I do a live stream and I go over my entire chapter that I have on Freemasonry and Ceremonial High Magic that is about the Sephiroth and the Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or as well. So it's a comprehensive description of all of those. Although indefinable, the absolute permeates all space. Abstract to the degree of inconceivability, Ein Sof is the unconditioned state of all things. Substances, essences, and intelligences are manifested out of the inscrutability of Ein Sof. But the absolute itself is without substance, essence, or intelligence. So the Ein, is that what he's talking about? He hasn't really talked about the Ein yet. He's talking about the Ein Sof. He's starting directly from the Ein Sof. So, and I know different people have different ideas on what each one is. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Let me see how I describe the Ein and Ein Sof. I'll try to read that to you guys from my book real quick. Just those two small sections. I could see somebody left a comment out of the corner of my eye. I'm not even looking at the phone. It's amazing how our peripheral vision works. So if you guys are interested in that, I can read that real quick. It's a few paragraphs, like a whole page. Melik, what's up, dude? How are you? Okay. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt with, I don't want to disturb your meditation, man, but thank you for popping in and saying, hey, it's awesome to see you. Hope your journeys are going well. Speaking of Klapoth and stuff, I actually just started talking to this girl, and she has a really interesting spider tattoo, like on her leg right here. And it totally makes me think of the Klapoth. It makes me think of, I was telling her it has a lot of Sateriel energy with the spider and stuff. It's like the spider it's like shooting out a web, but then at the bottom of the web, it has entrapped like a woman. And it's like, I don't know if it's dropping her down or if it's pulling her up, but it's like the woman looks very Lilith-like. So I thought that was a really, really cool synchronicity and correspondence. So I figured you would appreciate that, brother. I figured now that you're popping into the chat, that would be a good time to bring that up. Yeah, I was gonna read from my book. So this is my difference on the Oh wow, nice. You wear a spider chain, and that's so cool. Yeah, I thought so too, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I was able to share that with you. So here's my writings on the Empyrean heaven. So the first outermost veil, the Ein. Oh, my nose is itching. The Ein, this top one right here. Kind of skipping a little bit of this here. The first layer, called Ein, is commonly understood as the no thing or void. This is slightly misleading. This is, quote, God, the creator, or primordial chaos, darkness itself, which is totally immutable and unchangeable. It exists outside of the sphere of creation altogether as something which cannot be comprehended by any but the most high adepts. Even then, it can only be perceived as darkness because it is at a level of creation we can hardly conceive of. It is rather difficult, if not impossible, to imagine no thing, for there has always been something to us. Further principles of the Ein can be understood by reading The Secret Doctrine. This book takes you through the whole creation process, as stated before, starting with the primordial chaos, or Ein, in the beginning, and works through all the various manifold manifestations, which lead to our current incarnations and experiences in this realm. The Ein cannot be adequately described by human language because as soon as an attribute such as a sacred name, letter, or form is given to it, it no longer represents undifferentiated substance. All things come from it, and it itself never changes. It is the immovable mover. The Ein represents the original state of consciousness in which there is no I at all. Some say this process takes place in Hokmah, where the Father and Son become one. More on this later. Ein is pure potentiality, and I've done videos on just the Ein itself, so check those out. Ein is pure potentiality. It is important to note that in quantum physics, they are discovering that void, or quote, empty space, or quote, negative potential matter, carries exponentially more energy than all of the manifested matter in the cosmos. So everything that's ever been manifested is just a sliver or small fractal portion of this unconscious, dark, Ein primordial state of being. So that, I think, is super cool. For even deeper understandings of this, which I'm talking about, there's a book or a grimoire called the Citra Akra, a grimoire of the dragons of the other side, by NAA 218. It's super deep. It's really dense material. It's pretty intense, but it's profound. This book involves serious study of some very deep and intense occult principles and should not be taken lightly. It is a really deep read, and it's very powerful. Just like Curtis Joseph's material, his books are really. He's got some good stuff. And then the Ein Sof. Let's jump on to the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is the limitless all. This force is symbolized as a great dragon and Hermes, the divine Pymander. So when I'm like rising up through the spheres, when I do like my Kabbalistic cross, I envision the Ein Sof as like a luminous, golden, not necessarily golden, but just a very bright light type dragon. And of course, that's just a symbolic representation. Curtis Joseph, he talks a lot about us being all scales on the one great dragon. So this is the next level of godhood, which has identification or an I to some degree, because it now has the potential to be all manifested things in its primal state. It is all potentiality after the initial intensification of consciousness, rather than unmanifested potentiality. So that's what the Ein is. This is the first differentiation from the original no thing. This is infinity, so to speak. This is still God prior to any actual self-manifestation or emanation, but existing and being produced from, yet not a part of the original Ein, which remains separate and independent. Ein only imparts and does not receive. Ein Sof would essentially be God's, quote, God's essence put into a symbolic vessel. Ein Sof is also known as the Endless One, according to Solomon Ibn Gabriel. And then I have some other notes on it as well. But if you want to check out my book, go and check out my Patreon, please. It's only $5 to get like a little bit more than half of the book. And then if you want to pay the $10, you get the full book. And really what the book's about is I talk about the Tree of Life, Kabbalah, and the connection between Freemasonry and ceremonial high magic. What are the similarities? What are the differences? Because they're not exactly the same thing. Magic utilizes some things from Freemasonry, and Freemasonry utilizes some things from magic. So they are different, but they often go like very much hand in hand. Melanin says that's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy, isn't it? And I like how you have the white on the left and the black on the right, with the circles there, because that is like the proper way of working with the pillars, in my opinion. And I think Jeremiah from Universal Mastery feels the same way. I think if you're working with the pillars with the black on the left and the white on the right, like I'm pretty sure that's inverted. So it's not that it's, yeah, I don't know. For me, it just makes sense because my left brain hemisphere, if you Google brain hemispheres, the left brain hemisphere is the masculine one. So that would be your left pillar. The right hemisphere would be the feminine brain, so that's the right pillar. That's the way I see it anyway. Okay, getting back to Manly P. Hall's book. I see we have 5 people in here, so welcome to the chat. If you're just now hopping in, I've just been reading about some Kabbalah and stuff, mostly the 4 worlds of the Kabbalah. We've been talking about that. I've been reading from the Secret Teachings of All Ages for a few minutes now. I was just reading from my own book, Freemasonry and Ceremonial Magic. Now I'm going to get back to the Manly P. Hall. Be sure to leave comments down below if you feel like getting involved in the chat. So the Ein Sof, hold on. Ein Sof, I'm going to rewind just a little bit here in the book. Ein Sof is the unconditioned state of all things, substances, Essences and intelligences are manifested out of the inscrutability of Ein Sof, but the absolute itself is without substance, essence, or intelligence, so that would be Ein. Ein Sof may be likened to a great field of rich earth, out of which rises a myriad of plants, each different in color, formation, and fragrance, yet each with its roots in the same dark loam, which, however, is unlike any of the forms nurtured by it. Interesting. So I would see the Ein Sof is like the roots, the roots going in below, but the Ein would be like the roots to the Ein Sof, in my opinion. So this is meat. Does that mean cool? It's not an expression I'm familiar with. Or did you mean to say neat? Gotta get you some of that meat, a good hearty meal, like a Nord of Skyrim, right? I would be a lot happier with a belly full of mead. Isn't that what they say in Skyrim? I took an arrow to the knee. There's one dude I walked by him in Skyrim, and he's like, I used to be an adventurer like yourself till I took a sword through the chest. I'm like, holy crap, dude! Like that's a little bit more intense than an arrow to the knee. I don't think that guy was an actual guard though. I'm sorry, I'm just nerding out. I don't know if any of you play Skyrim or not, but I love the Elder Scrolls. I think that's what's actually playing right now. Or no, it is Elder Scrolls, but it's Morrowind. It's not. I thought it was Skyrim there for a second. Need to get my music straight. So I could listen to. I listen to his music all the time though, Jeremy Soule. Unfortunately, he had some kind of like, I don't know, like some kind of scandal or something happened with him, so he's kind of like dropped off the map now. The plants, the quote-unquote plants are universes, gods and man, all nourished by Ein Sof, and all with their source in one definitionless essence. All with their spirits, souls, and bodies fashioned from this essence, and doomed, like the plant, to return to the black ground. Ein Sof, the only immortal whence they came. Ein Sof was referred to by the Kabbalists as the most ancient of all the ancients. It was always considered as sexless. Its symbol was a closed eye. That's interesting. So instead of the open all-seeing eye, it's a closed eye. While it may be truly said of Ein Sof that to define it is to defile it, the rabbis postulated certain theories regarding the manner in which Ein Sof projected creations out of itself. And they also assigned to this absolute not being certain symbols as being descriptive, in part at least, of its powers. The nature of Ein Sof they symbolize by a circle, itself emblematic of eternity. And then, of course, if you put the dot in the middle of the circle, that's the astrological symbol for the sun. This hypothetical circle encloses a dimensionless area of incomprehensible life, and the circular boundary of this life is abstract and measureless infinity. That's kind of how you get, geometric forms like the flower of life and the seed of life and things of that nature. So, spirit science, I don't even know if it's called spirit science anymore, has really good videos on that. That was one of the first spiritual channels I started watching, like way back in the day. Yeah, we're an hour in, guys. So I think I'm going to try to go like another maybe like 30 minutes or so, at least if I can. So if you do have any questions or anything, make sure you drop down in the comments section. Make sure you smash the like button if you like this content, if you receive any kind of value from it. I want to go back to the root metaphor that he was talking about in this book, because I also see that as like the Qliphoth has been described in that way too, the tree of death. So the tree of death is like the root system to the tree of life. And the tree of life is like the beautiful flower, it's the beautiful matrix, like superimposed on top of all, you know, the shit and the mud and the dirty stuff. But really, this is the essence that gives life to the beauty of the tree of life. And really, when you get down to it, in the deepest, most macrocosmic aspect of it, if you're really pulling out the lens, the whole thing is beautiful. So it's all one unified system. So such is life. According to this concept that we were talking about earlier, God is not only a center, but also area. Centralization is the first step towards limitation. Therefore, centers which form in the substances of Ein Sof are finite because they are predestined to dissolution back into the cause of themselves. So the circle, I guess, is like the circle would be the infinity, and then wherever the dots form, like they'll always have to go back to their predestined dissolution back into the cause of themselves. Basically like the flowers decomposing back into the earth or the soil. I hate to go off subject, but I wanted to say thank you for covering the Hiram key. Oh, of course. Of course, that's actually a series that I have, it's actually a series that I've considered continuing. Make sure we get the thumbs up in here as well. But yeah, the Hiram key, if none of you have read that, let me see if I can find that real quick. My books are all kind of scattered at the moment. Okay, I found one, and then I also have the sequel to this as well. So give me just a moment. Stick with me, guys. I'm still here. I wanted to show you guys the other book too. I know it's around here somewhere. When my son comes over, he pulls all the books off the bookshelf. So when I put them back, I don't really organize them because I know he's just going to pull them back off the shelf again. You know what I mean? So. Well, there's definitely a sequel to the Hiram key. And I do have it here somewhere. I don't think anybody would have borrowed that book. Of my friends. Weird. I'm not sure. Oh well, that's kind of silly. I can't find it anywhere, but I know that I also have the sequel to the Hiram key, which I think it's called Hiram key New World Order or something like that, and it has a upside down pentagram on the cover of it. I do have a picture of that. If you go to my community section on my YouTube page, there's a picture of that book if you scroll down. It's been a while since I posted it. This book, if none of you have read this book, if you're into Freemasonry in any capacity whatsoever, this book is amazing. Also, like the secret history of Jesus and different ideas and perspectives on the life of Jesus. They also talk about the Knights Templar in here. This is a superb book. So I cover it a lot here on the channel, but I'm probably only I've probably only made it maybe like a fifth of the way through the book, like not very far. So there's a lot more to cover. It's not a huge book, but there's so much in this book. Like there's so much material. It's insane. And it's written by Freemasons too. I think they were both Freemasons, I'm pretty sure. So, all right, let's continue with the chapter of Manly P. Hall. The circular shape given to Ein Sof signifies that space is hypothetically enclosed within a great crystal-like globe, outside of which there is nothing. Interesting, because the Sephiroth are shaped like globes. Not even a vacuum. So there's not even a vacuum outside of it. Within this globe, symbolic of Ein Sof, creation and dissolution take place. Every element and principle that will ever be used in the eternities of cosmic birth, growth, and decay is within the transparent substances of this intangible sphere. It is the cosmic egg which is not broken till the great day. Be with us, which is the end of the cycle of necessity when all things return to their ultimate cause. So that's one thing that, like, a comfort that, you know, studying this spiritual type stuff brings me, is that at the end of the day, all things do get reconciled. So there is ultimate reconciliation at the end of the day. And I think that's, you know, at the end of the great day, when we've had all the experiences necessary that, you know, that it is that we need to have. And then at the end of that, we'll get to do it all over again, I'm sure. So in a new way. So really, it's just infinite. It goes on and on forever. In the process of creation, the diffused life of Ein Sof retires from the circumference to the center of the circle and establishes a point, which is the first manifesting one. So it comes from the outside of the circle or the circumference to the center of the circle, and it makes a point, which is the first manifesting one, the primitive limitation of the all-pervading zero. When the divine essence thus retires from the circular boundary to the center, it leaves behind the abyss, or as the Kabbalists term it, the great privation. Thus, in Ein Sof is established a twofold condition where previously had existed but one. The first condition is the central point, the primitive objectified radiance of the eternal subjectified life. About this radiance is darkness caused by the deprivation of the life which is drawn to the center. See, this is where it starts to get crazy and stuff. About this radiance is darkness caused by the deprivation of the life which is drawn to the center to create the first point, or the universal germ. So you have the dot in the center of the circle, and it creates this abyss, basically, it says, as it's moving from the outside or the circumference towards the middle. Darkness caused by the deprivation of the life which is drawn to the center to create the first point, or universal germ. The universal Ein Sof, therefore, no longer shines through space, but rather upon space from an established first point. Isaac Meyer describes this process as follows. The Ein Sof at first was filling all, and then made an absolute concentration into itself, which produced the abyss, deep, or space, the Avir Kadmon, or primitive air, the Azoth. But this is not considered in the Kabbalah as a perfect void or vacuum, a perfectly empty space, but is thought of as the waters or crystalline chaotic sea, in which was a certain degree of light inferior to that by which all the created worlds and hierarchies were made. Interesting. I have a video. It's called, I'm pretty sure it's titled The Mysteries of the Dark Tree. So if you want a even more deeper understanding of this type of stuff, definitely go and check that video out, because it's going to discuss more the Ein rather than the Ein Sof, but it does get into the Ein Sof as well. Ein Sof is like really where differentiation starts to take place within that, but the Ein is the primitive essence of all things, which is mistakenly void, as we've talked about previously. It is, but it isn't. That's like the ultimate paradox. Everything's paradoxical, kind of. So it's that whole melanin, that whole duality thing you were talking about earlier. So I see we got 5 people in here. Thank you for staying in and staying tuned. And we have 6 thumbs up. So thank you very much. Be sure to get those up if you haven't already. In the secret teachings of the Kabbalah, it is taught that man's body is enveloped in an ovoid of bubble-like iridescence, which is called the auric egg. This is the causal sphere of man. It bears the same relationship to man's physical body that the globe of Ein Sof bears to its treated universes. So man's body is enveloped in a bubble-like iridescence, the auric egg, and this is it has the same correlation to man's physical body that the globe of Ein Sof bears to its treated universes. Interesting. In fact, this auric egg is the Ein Sof sphere of the entity called man. So we all have the Ein Sof and Ein Sof or microcosmically within ourselves as well. That's pretty interesting. Just like the Sephiroth and whatnot. In reality, therefore, the supreme consciousness of man is in this aura, which extends in all directions and completely encircles his lower bodies. As the consciousness in the cosmic egg is withdrawn into a central point, which is then called God, the Supreme One, so the consciousness in the auric egg of man is concentrated, thereby causing the establishment of a point of consciousness called the ego. Interesting. As the universes in nature are formed from powers latent in the cosmic egg, so everything used by man in all his incarnations throughout the kingdoms of nature is drawn from the latent powers within his own auric egg. As above, so below, as within, so without. Man never passes from this egg. It remains even after death. His births, deaths, and rebirths all take place within it, and it cannot be broken until the lesser day, quote, be with us, when mankind, like the universe, is liberated from the wheel of necessity. Bare necessities. Spiral anomaly 4. Make your systems up, though, right? Make your own systems up. I wouldn't say I've created my own systems. I have maybe my own interpretations of, like the Sephiroth and the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. I don't know if you're like well versed with the Tree of Life, as a spiritual tradition, as a, as a system, a composite system of the universe and stuff. But there's so many different spiritual systems. There's so many different spiritual traditions. So I say really do what works for you. Spiral. So that's what it's all about. It's kind of like figuring out what works best for each of us, right? And then respecting our differences as individuals. I think that's really where the world's going to have to, that's what's going to help the world kind of come together a little bit more. Power of belief. Yes, sir. Cool. Yeah, belief has a lot of power in the words you speak. And Jeremiah just made a YouTube short about this. It's not so much the actual thoughts that you're having. You can't just have positive thoughts and positive affirmations. it's the emotion, it's the feeling that goes behind it that really, really matters. So it's the same thing with like using the voice in magic. You know, you've got the Thume in Skyrim, or the shout. It's the force, it's the occult force behind the words, the emotions behind all of it, that really is what's key to the manifestation, or key to, you know, what you're going to attract into your life, rather than just saying blank empty statements, which you may not truly feel, but you're just saying them, so they're not really going to have that magnetic pull that you're hoping for, or that resonance of the things that you're seeking to be in resonance with, per se. I think we're going to go on just a little bit longer. It's been about an hour, it looks like, and 15 minutes. So I'm probably just going to go like another 10 minutes or so. I'm thinking. So if you have any questions, you're very welcome, Spiral. If any of you have any questions, go ahead and drop those down in the comment section, because I'm okay to stop reading at any point too. I've read quite a bit in this video already. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, of course, make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up on the video, and be sure to share this kind of content with like-minded people. You know, this stuff's not for everyone, but for those people who are out there who can appreciate it and enjoy it, I really want to, you know, share my thoughts with those type of people. Any knowledge on tulpa creation? What is tulpa? I've heard that word before, Tulpa. Can you remind me of that? I guess I could Google that real quick too if you want me to, or just tell me what that is and I'll give you my thoughts. The next section of this chapter in Manly P. Hall's chapter, Fundamentals of Kabbalistic Cosmogony, is the Kabbalistic system of worlds. On the accompanying circular chart, the concentric rings represent diagrammatically the 40 rates of vibration, called by the Kabbalists spheres, which emanate from Ein Sof. The circle, X1, is the outer boundary of space. Which chart are they talking about? On the accompanying... Okay. Wow. Check this out. And there's a whole text below it too. I don't know if we're going to get into that though. I will go ahead and read the, I did not read the little text in this picture here on the previous page. Let me go ahead and read that real quick. The Hebrew triad. The Kabbalists used the letter Shin to signify the trinity of the first three Sephiroth. So yeah, you've got Kether, Hokmon, Bina, and I think Shin like has a correlation with Jesus and also the element of fire, if I remember correctly. The central circle, slightly above the other two, is the first Sephiroth Kether. The other two, of course, are Hokmon, Bina. From the union of the Divine Father and the Divine Mother are produced the worlds and the generations of living things. The three flame-like points of the letters Shin have long been used to conceal this creative triad of the Kabbalists. It's the fire of creation. All right. So on this accompanying circular chart, which I just showed you guys a picture of, we're not going to like get super deep into the chart, but the circle X1 is the outer boundary of space. So that's literally the very outer ring of this thing. It circumscribes the area of Ein Sof. The nature of Ein Sof itself is divided into three parts, represented by the spaces respectively between X1 and X2, X2 and X3, X3 and A1. Thus, from X to X2 is the Ein, or the Ein, the vacuum of pure spirit. I like that description because it is the vacuum of pure spirit. That's or limitless potentiality yet unmanifested, as I like to call it. But really, it's even before it's really even precedes like potentiality. So it's really the very beginning. So the circle x1 is the outer boundary of space. Or I'm sorry, x to x2 is ein. So this whole outer ring, I don't know if you can read that or not. From the x1 to x2, that's considered the ein. So it's like this space from this first outer ring to the next one. And I think I am going to go ahead, and there's some really interesting stuff in this chapter, but it's going to take me a while to get through the chapter, and we just got started on it. So I'm going to go ahead and close the book for now, and just answer questions for the remainder of this video. So that's a really cool, it's probably one of the most interesting chapters of this book. I mean, I think every chapter is interesting. The best chapter in this book for, learning the tree, and if you're getting started with the tree, it would be this chapter, the tree of the Sephiroth. And I actually had like a third of the chapter memorized word for word at one point. I'm going to have to work on that again. And I could almost recite it back as like a lecture. And use the Kabbalistic tree as a chart to kind of describe it and explain everything that's going on. It's a mental thought form, being, or entity created by a host, you, in efforts to help aid in one's purpose goals. Is it like an egregore? Because there's so many different types of thought forms and egregores and things of this nature. Even when you go to like a grocery store, for instance, I've noticed sometimes when I'm at the grocery store, if you're in like really low spirits or there's something that's bothering you, it's like the egregore of that place, or the aggregate of energy and spiritual energy will almost start to, like, it seems like it's starting to attack you. But really what it is it's just trying to get your attention about something deeper that's going on within that maybe you're not quite addressing, is what I've found to be the case a lot of the times. Okay, so it's a personal one. I am not familiar with that, brother. Collective egregore. A personal collective egregore. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but there's different kinds of egregores, and you can almost see like a current of, like a magical current almost in and of itself as an egregore. Some say that like groups have egregores. So like Freemasonry, for example, has its own egregore that kind of like watches over the spirit of Freemasonry. It's a very interesting topic. There's a chapter I've read on that, and that was pretty interesting. So, and I think, have you ever heard of there's a YouTube channel, POTB, I think that's what his YouTube channel is called. He's got some really neat videos, and he has a video on like personal egregores and stuff, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's like the intentions that you put into it. Like whatever you're feeding into it, everything that you're giving to the egregore is going to have, that's going to be what determines its effectiveness, its usefulness, or its power. It's all about the intention that's put into it, as it is with all other magic, if I am not mistaken. So I hope that helps, brother. I know that's not really quite an answer to your question. I see we have 4 people left in here. I'm about to end the video, though. I'm probably going to go just a couple more minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So. Intention and attention, yes, most definitely. So if I were you, something I would work on is learning how to streamline your energy, how to get to such a point of mental fortitude and basically really mental discipline, to where you can empty the mind, but then you can project the desirable energy that you're wanting to into what it is that you're wanting to manifest it into. So really it has to do with masterfulness of the mind and being able to use that pinpoint consciousness to add to whatever energetically that it is you're desiring to do. You don't want to get caught up in using that kind of energy all the time, though, because there is a danger to using that laser beam pinpoint type of consciousness, and you can kind of drive yourself crazy over certain, certain aspects, depending on what it is. Franz Barden is an interesting author. I've definitely heard that name. I think that actually sounds really familiar. Perspectives and perceptions, indeed, and all possibilities. Knowledge 2020. Hey, how are you? How does Kabbalah tie to tarot and the planets, and how is it applicable to understanding? So Kabbalah, let me pull my chart back out real quick. Thank you for joining in the chat. Make sure we're getting thumbs up, everyone, if you can. So here's the Tree of Life. This is the main diagram of the Kabbalah. Really, they say it comes from Jewish mysticism, but really it goes way further back than that, like to Atlantis and even pre-Atlantis, and things of that nature. So you've got this Tree of Life, and then the tarot and the planets. So each Sephiroth represents like a different archetypal world, but it's also a different aspect of each and every one of us. So there's a planet that corresponds with each Sephiroth too. So Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. And then this is the zodiac, or the actual like constellations, the fixed stars. And then Kether is like unity consciousness. So that's really like beyond like any physical planets or anything like that. That'd be source awareness within this matrix of the Tree of Life. And then the tarot, there's a different tarot card for each of these 22 paths on the Tree of Life. So if you add 10 Sephiroth and 22 paths, you get the number 32, which corresponds with the 32 degrees of Freemasonry. Here's all your different cards. So you've got, and I'm not well versed on the paths. That's something I'm going to have to work on one day. You've got the Moon. You've got, I can't read that. Judgment, the World, all the different tarot. I don't think you can read that. I don't know if you want to try to like pause that later on and then maybe try to read it. It shows you all the different tarot cards, which are the 22 paths on this tree. So basically, it's a roadmap of the universe, not only the universe, but it's also a roadmap of the self. So if you want to go back to the beginning of this video, if you're just now tuning in, it might be a good place to start. I cover a lot of different Kabbalistic stuff on my channel, so make sure to check it out if you would like. What's your zodiac? My sun sign is Scorpio. My moon is Scorpio. Mars is in Scorpio, and Pluto is in Scorpio for me. So I have a lot of Scorpio influence. I feel each one is meant to create their own system. Yeah. And even though I follow the Kabbalah, I still have like my own adaptations to practices that I do. So I've kind of come up with my own rituals and my own practices that I've done before. Be careful with creating your own rituals, though, and what your intentions truly are, because it's all really powerful. Even if you're creating your own practice from scratch, like we are very powerful. So just be careful, when you're trying to affect things on a macrocosmic level. Plus Doth makes 33. Awesome. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and then you got the 33 degrees, of course. Yeah, I was wondering, like, you had 32 and then the 10 spheres, and then you've got, the 33rd, it's the 11th sphere on the Tree of Life, but it is that 33rd missing piece, in the component of the 11 spheres and the 22 paths. So thank you for adding that as well. All right, guys, unless there are any last minute questions, I am going to go ahead and end this video, I think. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Like, this is awesome. This is the fact that we can do this is incredible. I love talking and meeting with new people that are into this type of stuff. So I want to keep the YouTube channel rolling, and I want to help it continue growing, because my watch hours have actually gone down recently. So I would like to monetize from YouTube at some point. I do monetize some from Patreon, so go Be sure to go and check me out on Patreon as well. I do have some cool material on there, and it's not a lot of money. You can just subscribe for like a month if you would like to. So, alrighty. Melanin's got the angel and the devil simultaneously there, and the pillars too. So, Pokemon Bina. All right, everyone. Thank you very, very much. And until next time, peace and blessings.